Welcome to the Kings Beat podcast. I am James Hammond, Kings Insider for ESPN 1320 and the Kings Beat. Joining me today, Fox 40, Sean Cunningham. Sean, how are you?
I'm older, I'm dumber, and I'm feeling pretty good overall.
A year older now. Sean had a
Even
birthday
dumber,
yesterday.
huh?
Yeah, you get older and dumber. People think you get older and wiser. I think that happens to a point, and because like when you're a kid, you get older and wiser. So you're still in the older and wiser category. I think once you get 30, you're dumber after that. Like so you get older and dumber the longer you go. So that's what you got to look forward to. James and I have been older and dumber for a while.
This is random. I don't know where Sean's
I'm 4 years from my peak, is what you're saying here.
That's right.
No, you're just going to start going downhill. Downhill in the sense that you're going to get stupider, but you're more mature and
Sure.
you'll be fine.
4 years away from peak Brenden. Excuse me. I have a sniffle. Like it just seems like we just keep getting these things like floating around. But of course, joining us today as well is Brenden Nunes from the Kings Pulse podcast. Brenden, how are you?
Doing well. Nothing special. I got a podcast calendar here. Podcast candle here. I think this is a new one. Lavender and cedarwood. Have I shown you this one before?
I think the lavender cedarwood I've heard before.
It might be. Yeah, it might have been.
Might have made cedar. I'm not a huge cedar fan because that smells like the inside of like a hope chest or like a oh yeah. We got the sassy candle.
Sean got his sassy candle today.
I will say, I was curious to see how it would smell because again,
Sean assumed it would smell like shit. Let's just start with that.
I know. Well, I thought it was a joke candle. Like I don't know. I didn't know it was going to smell bad. I was going to say, for the record, if you all and you two know, I smell great. So
there it is.
Always have some cologne on. The featuring a feisty blend of spice and back talk, as Brenden laid out in the previous podcast when he had it in his possession. It is now in mine. It is now lit and not a lot of aroma coming from it. It's a little subdued, so I feel like it should smell like a Rihanna cologne, but it doesn't. So we'll get there.
Maybe just douse it with a little Rihanna cologne. There you go. That's not flammable or anything.
Explode the house.
Yeah, there we go. Welcome in, everybody. If you're here watching on YouTube, we ask every single podcast if you don't mind giving us a thumbs up. If you're not already subscribe to the channel. That would be amazing. We would love it. Go to thekingsbeat.com and become a premium subscriber to the Kings Beat. That way you get invitations to all of the festivities here at the Kings Beat. Let's see what else we got. In addition, we are a Blue Wire podcast brought to you by Prize Picks. So jump on board with Prize Picks. I keep getting absolutely mauled by my Prize Picks every single game, but I'm still having a great time. So there is a link below to the Prize Pick, to the Kings Beat Prize Pick link. And you can jump on board and have a good time. Hopefully you do much better than I do. I suggest to anyone out there that really wants to do Prize Picks, just go look at my Prize Picks and whatever I choose like 3 that you think, oh, that guy's an idiot, and choose those ones because chances are you'll win. That would be my suggestion. Prize Picks, of course, is a sponsor of ours. But again, it's a great way to add to your sports watching. And the cool thing is you can Prize Pick, like tonight, there's a Thursday night football game. There's games tomorrow, NBA. There's NFL and NBA on Saturday. You can basically jump on board with multiple sports at the same exact Prize Pick. Choose more, choose less, have a good time playing, play responsibly, and jump on board with Prize Picks. Down below, you'll again see a link, and down below. Or in the email or anywhere else. But again, it's a good time. Let's get to this.
And do the opposite of James, because that'll bode well for you.
I think so. Like, I think we could get to it's a good segue to go straight from why I was so unsuccessful in Prize Picks yesterday. Really, I thought I did an okay job choosing 2 Celtics players and going more. But then the Sacramento Kings were really good for a half and then decided they didn't want to play basketball anymore. What were your guys' takeaways from just the overall dynamic of the loss to the Celtics, because we have a team playing on the second night of a back-to-back, a team that's playing without their best player in Jason Tatum, without a really good big man in Al Horford. They're playing the third game in 4 days, and the one day off they had to travel from Boston to San Francisco. Like, this team should have been dog tired, and they went out and mauled the Sacramento Kings, especially in the second half.
I mean, it's really that. It's that you get out hustled by this team. There's certainly more details that they could have cleaned up, but you give up, 30 fast break points to this team that, like James just mentioned, should have been the ones with a little more wear on their tires. And you also gave up 18 second chance points. And a lot of that is effort and attention to detail. And I think that's really the inexcusable part. There are obviously larger themes about just dealing with size that we've seen the Kings struggle with throughout the course of this season, but getting outworked by a team with that sort of schedule coming in and the difference in rest really stands out. And the Celtics always give the Kings problems, it seems like. And again, you could point to the size a little bit there, but this was an opportunity to sort of add a statement win to your record. And the Kings just totally dropped the ball. Like you said, they played well in that first half offensively. I still think defensively they were really bad in that first half, and that defense carried over, but the offense didn't.
Yeah, it's well said. Look, this loss really stemmed from what happened against the Wizards, in my mind. You go up 131 points to the Wizards, and they were awful. They put up fight against you, and I feel like the Kings tend to get comfortable. They get comfortable relying on their offense, and we've been talking about it all season long, so it's nothing new. They have a very difficult time defending, and look, people aren't asking for much when it comes to defensive focus. In fact, talking to Keegan Murray today, it's like, if we could just be average defenders, it would go a long way. Like we would be able to win games better and have much more success on the defensive end. They just have zero give a damn when it comes to defense, and what it looks like to me is that they try to use a high level of scoring to mask some of that. You can't do that against a team like the Celtics. Like it or not, that is a premier elite, and yes, I'm saying elite basketball team. And I'm not going to make a mountain out of a molehill. This is who you are. And look, teams that aren't elite use excuses for back-to-backs and road trips and all that. Like, elite teams don't have to talk about that. They bring it every night. You know what you're going to get from night in, night out. They have talent throughout their roster that are two-way players. That's why they were able to give up on a guy like Marcus Smart in efforts to make them even that much better. You've got someone like Porzingis, who is a problem for the Sacramento Kings. So yeah, you lose someone like Jason Tatum, and you also have hungry guys throughout that roster, and every one of them shoot threes like lights out, and perimeter defense is awful with the Kings. So it speaks more to where the Kings are defensively. I don't think that the Kings took a major step backwards by any means in terms of where they are in the grand scope of their season. They're 6 games over 500. I actually felt really good about the Kings going into that game, to be honest, based off of, those excuses that, like I just laid out, that good teams might use, but elite teams don't. I thought that they might have a foot off the gas moment from the Celtics standpoint. And I thought the Kings have honestly shown something in this winning 5 of 6 coming into that game. But the defense is nowhere to be found. And with the minute they get kind of punched in the mouth, even a little bit, there's like this wilt that just happens. And that to me is a little bit more staggering. But you had some guys that, you see someone like De'Aaron Fox who can go out and do what he does, and then get held to 3 shots the rest of the way. Like that's what elite teams do. They force you into uncomfortable positions. They make adjustments, and the Kings just weren't able to do it. And then they just had everybody on. Like, that was a game where you're shooting 20 plus threes. You made 20 threes in that game. Usually that's a recipe for a Kings win, and it didn't work out for them.
Sean, all of the metrics were weird. The numbers, like, I'm sure Brennan's going to bring up something like the fact that the Kings had like 29 assists, only 7 turnovers. But how do you have 7 turnovers and give up 30 fast break points? Like, what in the world? That's like nearly impossible. That means you just didn't get back on defense. Just straight up, you didn't even try. So I'm of the opinion that, like, yes, it's one game, but it's one game that speaks to a much larger theme of this season. And that is when things go bad, they just like walk away from a game. And I don't think like this year, last season's team was so resilient. That was like what they were. They were resilient. They won all these close games early in the season, and you were watching them build something. They're learning. This year, it almost feels like we're not going to win this one. Let's go. Who else wants to play? Because I'm done tonight. I'll bow out. That's what it feels like, and to me, it's really shocking that 7 of their 10 losses are basically blowouts. One of those is a 10-point loss. Everything else is much greater than that. We're talking about 25, 30-point blowouts. They just have not competed on a night in and night out basis, which is what, which is, I think it's the most shocking thing to me. Brenden, did you have something else?
Yeah, well, to that point, like Mike Brown likes to mention the Warriors team that I think won like 58 games. I forget if it's 12, 13, 13, 14, 14, 15. It's somewhere in there with KD. I went back and looked. That team lost 9 games by 15 plus. The Kings are, already more than halfway to that number, a quarter of the way through the year. So I get Mike Brown's point, but obviously this is more dramatic with this Kings team. But I think your point of the offense is big here. Like, they played really well offensively. And Mike Brown mentioned it at practice today. Boston is 5th in defensive rating. The Kings put up 119, 47% from the field, 47% from 3 as well. Obviously the free throws are a little bit of an issue, but it's just all that defense. Before that Wizards game, they're sitting at 15th, which sounds like a big improvement from last year. You give up 131, you fall to 17th. And then you give up 144 to Boston. They're sitting at 22nd now. After 2 games, they fell from 15th to 22nd. Like, it's the defense, really. Like,
well,
the
and
offense
the reality too is when it comes to defensive rating, like, you really can't get a solid read on a team when you're only 25, 26 games into the season. You almost need a bigger sample size, because the ratings, like you mentioned, Brenden, they'll change daily, dramatically from game in and game out. And look, it was weird. Like, you just look around the NBA, and I think it just speaks more to where the NBA is in recent memory, especially these last 2 seasons. Like, scoring is just way up. Obviously, defense, no one's really playing it. I mean, I was floored looking at it the other day that the Kings have only stopped a team from getting to 100 points once this season. And if you even find a good team like Boston, I bet you there's
Maybe
obviously
twice.
several more, but yeah, I mean, you're probably talking maybe at most maybe 5, and I haven't looked, but there might even be more, but it wouldn't even be that much, So scoring is way up, and you're seeing a lot of lopsided scores, and this is what you see early in the NBA season. But I think the alarming part about it is just how frequently you're seeing it. And to your point, James, when you're talking about, hey, when you lose and you're getting your head kicked in and the non-compete, to me, it just feels like there's, like, last season, they had so many games that went down to the wire. And I think they improved as a result of that. I think this
agree.
season, I think this season you're coming in and it's like deficits tend to, like, you've seen them battle back from 20-point deficits and make it competitive again and all that stuff. But to me, it just a little bit few and far between. It seems like, okay, this is what type of night it's going to be, and then there's almost an acceptance of it because, oh well, it's early or anything like that, or I don't know where that comes from. I hate to call it a lack of compete, as James does, but I don't blame James for saying that, like, because there are moments where it does look like that. I feel like that there's almost an acceptance of it, and it's like, okay, on to the next one immediately. The flush it, move on kind of thing, and somehow, some way, maybe it's getting out on the road a little bit. They have to kind of find a way to be able to change that mindset a bit.
For what it's worth, Boston held teams under 104 times this year.
Yeah, there you go.
And I'm okay with the flush it, move it on. This game's over. Like, move on. That's after the final whistle. that's after you do your media. That's what you say when, hey, we just got to forget about this, have a short memory. We all got to be goldfish, and let's just go on to the next game. That to me isn't acceptable with 3 minutes into the third quarter. Like it's just, again, you said that they've rallied back from some big deficits like once. Like I remember the Warriors game, they
Well,
came back and they
you're talking about a win, right? I'm
well,
looking at it in just terms of making it competitive again.
There was the second Pelicans game. They brought it
Yeah.
back.
yeah. The
But
But
second
to that point,
Pelicans game,
to that point, it's just a weird acceptance of the game as it unfolds. And sometimes I get a little critical of, for example, like, they live and die by the three, and that seems to be, such a trait of this team that sometimes they don't recognize quickly enough that, hey, when we get into the paint, we're having success like on a pretty regular basis. And your point, your win-loss record kind of speaks for itself in that moment. There's just this like, sometimes they're not as quick to recognize it somehow, some way. But when big leads blossom or explode into a bigger deficit, that part to me, it feels like there's just a let up, or it's like, okay, well, this is just what it's going to be. We just have to chuck a bunch of threes to try and get back into it. Like in semi-pro with Will Ferrell. Like, no, that's not like you can't just be solely reliant upon that. And you have to give a damn on the other end.
They need somebody to wrestle a bear at halftime.
That's exactly what they need. Yeah.
Look at that.
Call the official.
I've seen it. I've seen it.
Because it's a basketball movie.
Right.
No comment.
Yeah, I get what you're saying, Sean. There's always this moment of let up, and I don't know how to fix that. I just know that, like, asking Mike Brown or Keon Ellis, the lone representative from the Sacramento Kings who showed up at the podium last night, who's on a two-way contract making $550,000 a year, not something much larger. Like, I asked the question to both of them about this, like the just like letdown. It's just like, it looks like you're not even competitive. It looks like you guys are just like, you check out at a certain point. And I would even say, like, Keon is one of the few guys who doesn't do that. The way that Keon earned his way into the rotation was by not being that guy, by coming into a game that they were getting stomped in Houston and just fighting and trying to get the team back in the game. And he makes an impression, and next thing you know, he's playing. So I think of everybody that should have walked to the podium, Keon Ellis is probably maybe the last guy, because he's the one guy that we know has even earned his spot in a rotation by not doing that, by not being that guy. But I'll just keep saying this, like, Keon Ellis is his spot in the rotation. I don't think it's been a permanent thing. It's becoming more and more permanent because every time these situations happen, which is way too often, Keon Ellis is the one guy who keeps bombing, who keeps hitting his shots, who keeps fighting through screens, who keeps playing hard. And then you got a bunch of other guys who keep coming in the game and almost tricking off the game, even though they're out of the rotation. And I think, like, we saw Mike Brown has rewarded a player for fighting in these situations specifically. And all of these other players have had opportunities to do what he did, and they haven't taken advantage at all. So hat tip to Keon for actually, not only sitting in and taking tough questions, which had realistically nothing to do with him except for the fact that he shares the same jersey that everyone else does in Sacramento. Like, it was a bunch of other dudes who weren't playing hard. It wasn't Keon Ellis, but I just find it really interesting that, like, this is the guy that represents them. It's like, hey, can we get someone who didn't play hard? Because you got a few of them in there. We're going to need to talk to those guys. And then to have Mike Brown, like, he, like, in a weird way, blamed it on officials, not on the officials, but on his team's reaction to what they deem as bad officiating. And it's like, okay, so your team gets a couple of bad calls, which they did in the early third quarter, and then they give up. Like, okay, well, they also did get to the free throw line twice in the first minute in the second half, and they missed 2 out of 3 free throws. Like, so, like, whatever momentum you would have gained by getting those calls, it was left there on the table too. Just kind of a weird way.
What was interesting about that moment too is there was a moment on the bench. It was Malik Monk trying to tell the coaches to shut up and
stop. He was yelling at the coaches,
yelling at him. Yeah. And Malik got his earful from Mike Brown in that game too for the not closing out on on Derek White, as if he was the only one, but that one's certainly the most egregious at the moment.
I'm still wondering who is defending Peyton Pritchard. I think he's still like Golden One center, just hitting wide open threes from like literally the same exact spot on the floor. It's like there's an X there, the Peyton Pritchard spot, and he's just sitting there like, "No, this is easy. Anyone else want to join me?"
The crazy part to me too is like Mike Brown made a point of saying after last night's loss that he used this example, and he's done it before, of LeBron James speaking out about when he coached him, and getting in the face of other teammates to talk about them being a show team on defense. And it's like, no, this is what we are. You do your job, and using obviously some profanity along the way to get them to do their job. And it was like a moment where a turning point for them for their, not only their season, but for the years ahead and how they were defensively going forward. I hear what he's saying, and I hear the moments he's talking about with guys like Tim Duncan and Bruce Bowen and things like that. But you're talking about guys that have that dog in them on defense, and have like doing things that are not outside their personality. You have people on this team that aren't really that guy, and if they all of a sudden showed to be that guy, I don't know that it would be taken seriously. De'Aaron Fox, for example, is not a guy who's going to get in the face of other people. It's just not who he is. Domantas Sabonis does, and he does quite often get in the face of guys, and he'll tell people. But the problem is you don't have enough of that. A lot of what they do is a little bit more subdued and a little bit more big picture, and try to continue to have conversations. And believe me, those conversations work. But in the moment when you need something like what Mike Brown illustrated with LeBron James and spouting off, they just don't really have that. And the people that do don't really carry the cachet outside of really Domas. But even Domas isn't going to jump the shit of everybody every time. If you do it every time, you're just going to get, X'd out. So it's him drawing that picture. I understand what he's trying to get, but it's like, people have to have that within them. They have to have that in their makeup, and this collection of players, and the ones that truly, truly matter, and the ones that you want to rely on doing that, do it in different ways. And there's no right or wrong answer. You could have someone jump the shit of somebody else and get in their face. It's still not work. So does it mean that it was impactful? No, the results can still not be there.
Well, and I tried to ask Coach a little bit about that today, about asking for that internal leadership, and De'Aaron saying he's the guy that leads by example. And obviously you see that, like, how do you get that out of him or expect that from him in a way? Like, do you need a certain personality? And as Sean said, he kind of pointed towards Tim Duncan, Steph Curry, that earlier in their career, they didn't have to be those guys. They had veterans that were able to do it. And that the quieter leaders, that the moments they do speak, you're really going to listen, because it's not often that you hear it. Like if we saw De'Aaron yelling at his teammates, like, I'm sure that would resonate, because he never does it. So if it got to the point where he was heated enough to be doing that and felt like he needed to, I think it would hit. But I also don't think it's necessarily fair. And I'm not saying you guys are doing this, but to like point, I don't know how to feel about pointing towards him for that, because I do think it's a personality thing. Like, you can't expect somebody to just be a different person, but there is definitely an acknowledgement of you need something internally there.
So Brenden and Sean have both advocated for the Kings to trade for Draymond Green. Your thoughts? Yeah. No, Brenden, you're talking about. We've talked about many times on this podcast. Like, De'Aaron Fox is an introvert. He's not a anxious introvert. He definitely has like his moments, but he's a guy who prefers to stay at home and play video games as opposed to going out. He is a quieter guy, and when he does speak, it does carry weight. And you're hoping that over time that there will be more and more of those moments. But at this point, I think we see the way he carries himself on the court, the way he talks to the opposition. Those are ways in which he is like sort of putting himself out there in a different way. Even the way he talks to officials, which is snarky, and I don't think it's always very pleasant. But you're seeing that he does have that. It's just when it comes to the overall like making noise, that's not him. And maybe the Kings still have that void. Maybe they still need to go get that guy. I mean, clearly the Kings could use a more physical presence, whether it's whatever position it is. That's just physicality is a huge issue with this team. Uh, I've said for the last couple of years, like length and athleticism, but it sort of seemed like bigger wings that are physical is where the Kings just like they don't have an answer. And maybe they will. Maybe Keegan Murray will become that guy. Maybe even Keegan Murray will become that guy for the Kings, where he's actually that physical, wing player that does things that that other teams can't stop. But they aren't there yet, and that's kind of like what we keep coming back to. Like, what are your expectations for this team, and how do you get there? And can you get there with the current 15 players that are on this roster? And I think all of us are still like at a tentative, like I'm not quite sure, or I don't think so. And I think this can be a really, really good team. But if you want to talk about a contending team, you just faced a contending team without their best player, and they had 5 guys dropped more than 20 points. Like, that's not exactly convincing to me that this team is ready for prime time, that they're ready to, and it's early. It is. They can improve throughout the
Well,
season.
also,
But
not to cut you off, Jay, I'm sorry, but like, don't you already knew that, right? Like, like
yes,
no one's talking about the Kings as being, that team like that the Celtics are. And that's fine. I mean, it's December. It doesn't mean they can't ascend there. They may not ascend there all season, and that would be fine. I mean, what like people who have like the team should have championship expectations. That's a team thing, but people who cover and follow the team use a little bit more, reason and play the
logic.
long game a little bit, logic, and say that no, you're probably not that team, right? You should have known that before stepping foot on the court against the Boston Celtics.
And like to the internal leadership, just to add to it, like kind of a big impression I've got of the addition of Juan Toscano Anderson is his locker room presence and like what he brings. And he has a familiarity with a lot of the coaching staff, Mike Brown, Leandro Barbosa, Luke Laux, and he can kind of echo that. And that's great. That's great to have, but like it can't be your 15th and 13th guy that we're talking about here.
No, I mean, Brendan, it's a really, really good point. It just can't be some, even JaVale McGee. Like, it can't
Right.
be JaVale McGee being the big noisy voice, because if he's not playing well, or if he's not even playing, then where are you getting that voice? The voice isn't on the court. So yeah, I think that this team, it has plenty of work to do. I know I'm going to bring this up. I don't want to touch it on it a ton, but like Kevin O'Connor from The Ringer is like drawn the ire of Sacramento Kings fans for basically saying the same thing we just said.
Yeah.
It realistically is like I don't think that, like, he's not a 100% spot on that the Boston Celtics didn't just ruin the Sacramento Kings, and that there's no way that this team is getting out of the first round. I think that's trash. I think mainly his takes on Domantas Sabonis have been like really, really poorly crafted. And he just, anytime Domantas Sabonis has a bad game, he loves to run and like point it out. But overall, I think that there is some validity to the fact that like the Kings don't have enough size. It's something that we've said a million times. They don't have enough physicality. They don't have some of the depth that you might need. And like getting to a championship is going to be a long and like sort of arduous task. Like it would take multiple teams having injuries for you to be able to get to a championship. And even then, I'm not sure. I'm not sure that that's who this team is. And we're seeing like this team went 0-6 against the beasts of the East last year, Philly, Milwaukee, and Boston. And now they're 0-1, and the one loss looks just about as bad as you can possibly look in a big game at home. But like, you guys get what I'm saying about Kevin O'Connor, and like Brennan. I know you've seen all of the nonsense with him and Kings fans over the last 24 hours.
Yeah, Sean and I may have had a conversation about this at practice earlier today, but I understand why Kings fans are maybe a little bit frustrated because of it. Largely has to do with the Domantas Sabonis stuff that he tends to highlight when he does bad and is a little bit goes quiet when there's good Domas games. But I also understand the questions when it comes to Domas being the backline defense of a championship contention team down the line. Like I get his questions. but he was already like, I guess you could say like in the scope of Kings fans, so that going out, any crap he would have talked about the Kings last night, the fan base was going to go after him is really what it comes down to for me. And I agree with you, James. I think that I don't agree that they broke the Kings, the Celtics, that is, or that there's no shot to get out of the first round, even if I think the odds maybe aren't great there. But everything else is accurate. The size is accurate. The needing another piece to be a championship contender team is accurate. It's everything we've said. So I get the frustration that comes from Kings fans, but last night there was what he said was fair, I thought, for the most part. Sean, take it away.
No, look, it's just wild to me. Maybe it's just the era we live in. Like, y'all can have disagreements. You can realize that this man is paid to form an opinion about NBA teams. What was so wrong? He doesn't like Domantas Sabonis. He's been pretty consistent with that since he was in Indiana. Like, I just don't understand the vitriol. I don't understand going at saying someone is awful at their job, or it gets so personal. Like, he doesn't like your team. He doesn't like the makeup of the team. If you remember, there were plenty of people who didn't like the makeup of the team after the Tyrese Halliburton trade. How'd that work out? There's people who had to come back out and go, hey, I think I was wrong here. JJ Redick comes to mind. It's fine. People have opinions. I mean, it's just wild to me how all of a sudden it gets so nasty and personal. And again, I know social media is the breeding ground for shit like that. So whatever. But like, if anything, it should just fire you up and be like, all right, I think this guy's wrong. And then you pay more attention to it. Again, I have no problem with what Kevin O'Connor said at all. At all. I mean, that's his opinion. Great. This is sports, people. This is sports. Like, what are we doing?
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, at the end of the day, I think that the problem that some people have, and it would be the problem that I'd point out about some of the other things that I've read out there, like the Ringer, Stephen Reeves does his quarterback rankings where he started the season with Brock Purdy at like number 32, which is just asinine. And then, even midway through the season, he still has Tom Brady at like number 12, and he has Brock Purdy at like number 18 behind like Daniel Jones. And you're just like, the whole time you're like, I think you might just be doing this as a shtick. But at the same time, I understand why some people go, man, you might just be really bad at your job. And
Can I say stop one more thing? Like, bad at your job. These are power rankings. These are designed for you to do this exact thing.
yes,
You're giving them what they want. Oh, I can't believe they put Purdy 32. And then he paints a picture as to how if he's doing a power ranking right now, is Purdy number 32? No, he's not. Where's he got him now?
I don't even think he has him top 10 still, but that's okay. And then every time something goes wrong and Purdy has a suspect game, he jumps right in. He jumps right. Oh, see, I was right. And I think that that's where Kings fans are having problems with Kevin O'Connor. It's like, hey, look, man, why don't you celebrate one of the games where Sabonis, like the last game where he had a triple double, and what did he finish? Like 27, like 15 and 11 or something, whatever it was. I don't know. Like Sabonis is really good, and his numbers are so good that his near triple double stuff just running together. Right.
There is a lot of people who don't look at Sabonis as like this star player, and it had to do with obviously him getting this max contract. We talked about it at the time. There he has a lot of critics in scouts and analytics and all that kind of stuff. Kevin O'Connor has been consistent with that. The biggest middle finger people can do is not click on it, not read it.
Very true. Very true.
Yeah. I try to make sure that I haven't been, it's no secret that I don't love the play of like Davion Mitchell, JaVale McGee, but I try to make sure that when they do something well, that I'm also clipping that, you know what I mean? So I get the frustration a little bit, but I think that Sean's on point. Everybody's entitled to their own opinion, and it getting personal is over the line.
It's wild, man. Yeah. Like we're just three idiots here on a podcast talking what we believe. If you disagree with us, it's like, great.
Whoa, I'm not 30 yet.
Contrasting. Yeah, right. Give us a contrasting opinion. Like you can have. That's what I think social media is for. Have some discourse. Have a conversation. But boy, people get heated. I look. The number one thing over all of it The passion is great. Kings fans are very, very passionate.
Oh
Some of
yeah.
the Kings media is a little weird sometimes. Like I don't know how they all of a sudden get jumped into this, but at the end of the day, like there's a passionate fan base here, and that's what we love most. But you don't take the bait, people. You know what clickbait is when you see it, right?
Yeah. I think so, but we keep falling for it. Yeah.
No, not
Not
we.
we.
We
No,
do
no,
not.
not we. No, no, not we. No, I think like Kyle and I had the same discussion on ESPN 1320 today, and it was basically the same thing. It's like, huh, I don't think I really can disagree with what he said, but like I don't agree with everything that he said.
Yeah, it
But
didn't take the Celtics game, and the Celtics didn't break the Kings. They're already broken. Look at their defense. It's
yeah,
awful. It's
it
fucking
is awful.
terrible.
They
Like you
literally
got
have all the same weaknesses from last season. Like we're talking about the defense, we're talking about the lack of internal leadership. How many episodes have we talked about this for
yeah.
throughout
And
the last 2 years?
Mike Brown, to his credit, at practice today, he's like, I think we're better than we were last year, a little better than we were, but he's essentially saying, no, we're about the same team. You know,
See, and that's why, Sean, we say, what do you think, Sean? Do they need to make a trade?
here we go.
If
I feel
somebody
like
has a bingo card, this is close to Phil already.
we're like already we're on the same exact like train again. Oh, which player would be the best fit? Yeah, I mean, I like it is
They're
what it is.
16. It's so funny. They're 16-10.
I
Like
know they're really
this
good.
is the year where we talk about this team as if they're like 3 games under 500. Like no, they're 6 games above 500. You know, this is look. I think there's a conversation to be had about I think fans, media, and I know plenty of scouts. Like there's a lot of people who look at this stretch for the Kings and go, okay, this is your kind of do it or get off the pot kind of moment for the Kings. Like how do you match up against these good teams at home? 3 games in 4 nights, back to back coming up. You've got the holidays. You're home for the holidays. You're coming off a stretch where you won 5 of 6. A lot against opponents that you probably should have beat. But you see it. Some of their struggles have come against opponents they should have beat. They've had historically good wins this season against upper echelon opponents. How do they stack up when you go up against the Celtics, who are number 1 in the East, the Phoenix Suns, who are on the rise even though they have some injuries, and then you've got the Minnesota Timberwolves, who are right there with the Celtics with one of the best records in all of basketball as the first place team in the West.
On the
How do you
second night
look?
of a back to back, when you have
Right.
you've gone 0-3 in back to backs this season.
And how do you look? Like how do you look now going into these games against 3 straight upper echelon opponents, being where you are in the season? Is it a barometer game? Is this a yardstick game? Is this a measuring stick game? Players don't really look at it that way. And I made a point of trying to ask that. I ask that question almost every single year, sometimes multiple times to players in a year. And you can see the mindset from someone like De'Aaron Fox and Keegan Murray today. And then even with Coach Brown, where it's like, I know scouts look at this stuff. I know analytics people look at this stuff. And I know coaches, especially with, if they break up the season into 5, 10, 15 game increments, however they do, there's a curiosity there too, that whether they'll admit it to you or not publicly is another thing, but they're looking at all these things and they want to see what it looks like around this time. And I think this is a really good moment for the Kings to be able to show some things. If you go, 2-3, 1-2, however it ends up shaking out, possibly 0-3, it doesn't mean that you're just not a team that's going to be reckoned with in the playoffs. It has no bearing on what you are in the season itself. It's just 3 games at the end of the day. But if you were able to come out and show something that's might be a little bit different than what you've shown this season, in the wake of winning 5 of 6 going into that Celtics game, then it could speak more broadly about what strides you have or haven't made, right? Like that's how you overall look at things. And that's some of the calculus that goes into whether or not you make moves at the deadline and trying to make your team better. Do you be a little bit more aggressive? All these things kind of factor into it. So yes, I think it is a barometer. I think it is fun, but at the end of the day, it's just going to be 3 games within the season of 82.
I think that most Kings fans were just hoping that the Kings wouldn't show up with like the 12-inch ruler and someone else brought a yardstick,
Yeah.
because that's what it just looked like. Somebody just showed you how far away you are in game 1. Now, how do you respond in game 2 of this little barrage and in game 3? Because if you get through this and somehow pick up 2 wins, somehow even if you pick up 1, the schedule gets decidedly easier. Like you have at Portland, at Atlanta, at Memphis, which again, I don't understand who wrote this schedule. Just the strangest 3-game road trip that covers 3 different time zones. And then the Kings come back and play in a different time zone, back to the Pacific at the end. But then you have Charlotte, you have Orlando, you have Toronto, you have the Pelicans, which you given the Kings fits, but at Detroit, at Hornets again, like you have like a 6 or 7 game spurt here where even if you fall flat on your face, you can rebuild. And this team could be, 11 games over 500, where last year they were like 5 games over 500. So yeah, I don't know. It's kind of an interesting stretch here. Brennan, what do you got?
Yeah, I mean, this could be in the rear view very quickly. It could compile if they have tough showings against Phoenix and Minnesota, but you win these and like it's easy to forget, like these Pelicans games that everybody was stuck on, they feel pretty far away already, So it's a long season, and I mean, I pretty much just agree with most of what you just said there, James. Like offensively, this team is totally rolling, and I think there are positives that you could take from that last night. Their offense held up against one of the better defenses in the league, and they did enough to win that game offensively. Defensively, it was just a dog shit performance. Like it was as bad as it gets.
All right, let's get to the business of basketball. I don't even want to talk about basketball.
No.
Let's
No,
just talk
good.
about Christmas movies. We got Christmas. We got Christmas.
My specialty.
On Monday, right? This is our last show before the holidays. Sean, what's your favorite Christmas movie of all time? Or maybe give me your top 5, like list them in top 5 for fashion.
Die Hard, Elf.
Stop it.
What?
It's not a Christmas movie, guys. James
Brendan-
tried to get me to
Brendan-
do this too. James tried to get me. I haven't even actually seen the whole thing, but I know, like, if it's themed in Christmas, like just because the
Brendan
time
doesn't
of
know
year,
movies at all. He's
just
whatever he's
because
saying
the
is irrelevant.
time
Sure.
of year is Christmas does not make it a Christmas.
What, so
movie.
Santa has to be in every movie to make it a Christmas movie? What
It
are we
has to
talking
be
about?
about Christmas.
There's a Santa
It is
in.
about Christmas.
Someone is dressed as
No.
Santa in this.
It's so about Christmas that even Die Hard 2 takes place during Christmas. So
During Christmas.
Taking place during Christmas has nothing to do with Christmas.
But
Was
it's
last night a
irrelevant-
Christmas game? Was the Kings Celtics game last night a Christmas game? Because
no,
we're
they didn't play
near
on
Christmas.
No,
But
because
if you
there's
played
2
on
more
Christmas,
games.
it would be in a
before.
Christmas game.
I guess.
No,
I
last night's
guess.
game, Brendan, was Sean's birthday game. That's what
True.
that was.
Yeah,
That's
True.
what that
Yeah, and
was.
it was a big clunker, wasn't it?
Yeah. Okay, so Sean, I'm
Well,
I'm
I was going to
gonna-
say Love
first of all,
Actually.
I'm gonna
Love
switch
Actually
those
is
two.
fantastic. Well, I was going to say
Okay.
Love Actually is fantastic. I'm not going in any particular order because I think seriously, and I'm not making this up, I do tend to believe that Die Hard is my favorite Christmas movie. I just love that movie, and it's better than any other Christmas movie that you would call a traditional Christmas movie, in my opinion. But I love Elf. Love Actually is probably 2 or 3, and yeah, man, I guess you could throw Christmas Story in there, although it just sucks that it's on so much, and it's not the movie's fault. But I think if you've seen the movie once or twice, you really like it. But if you've seen it a million times, you probably like it a little less. It's not the movie's fault.
okay. Brendan, what do you get?
Look
Uh-oh.
at that. Look at that.
Oh, that's
Look at him.
perfect.
Just freeze. I hope we get a
Somebody
screenshot of
screenshot
that.
that. We need to
Yeah.
screenshot it.
We just broke Brendan.
Okay, so I'm gonna say Elf is number 1.
Okay.
Sean,
Am I back?
now
back
you're
now.
back. We got a perfect freeze from you, but go ahead.
Great. The only one I got here is Elf. I think it's a hilarious movie. I hop across sidewalks, or what's it, crosswalks. I will hop.
Crosswalks.
You
and
do?
hit every line. Yeah, why not? Why not?
Do you
Huh.
also eat gum
Not
off the
every
bottom
time.
of
No, and I also don't put a bunch of candy in my
Spaghetti.
Spaghetti, yeah, that's a no-go for me. But Elf's the only one I got here.
Really? That's the only Christmas movie you believe in? that you think is
Well, that
is
I've
spe-
like really seen, to be honest.
This
Like
is
I'm
ridiculous.
I'm
What are
not gonna
we
lie.
doing here,
Second
Sean?
monitor, I might have
I don't
had to
know.
pull up a list here to see if any of
He
these
did.
sound
Oh my
familiar.
gosh.
Office Christmas Party is really good. Office
I've
Christmas
never
Party is
seen any of these.
fantastic,
You-
and
well,
so
first
is
of all-
the night before is really good too.
You guys fully missed like the one of the greatest. I think mine is
Ooh,
Elf.
Home Alone.
No, Home Alone is there, but no.
Alone's
Christmas
great.
Vacation is number 2.
It's great.
Christmas Vacation,
it's
and
really
then I
good.
would put Die Hard at number 3, which is
Okay.
gonna just to irk Brendan. I don't know. I like Christmas Story is amazing.
I have
Uh,
seen The Nightmare Before Christmas, actually.
Okay, but see, technically
That's
that's
Halloween.
not.
No, you cannot pull that shit after putting Die Hard. There's
Well,
absolutely not. Absolutely.
So, I mean, I'll
not.
You know
accept it.
what I do, right? I have a 13 and a half foot tall
Yeah.
Jack skeleton.
Right.
I have him out front, and then I don't take him down for after Halloween. I just throw a Santa hat at him. And then I have Oogie Boogie, and I put a big Santa hat on him. I have animated characters all over the front yard. So yeah, I think I'm down with that. It's probably in the top like 6, 7. I don't know. I'm not a big Love Actually guy.
Love Actually is awesome. I love
Yeah.
that movie. I got to put. You're right though. I think Christmas Story takes a back seat to Christmas Vacation. That one's fantastic. And in fact,
did we mention
yeah.
Bad Santa? I've seen that one too, actually.
Bad Santa's awesome. It's so great. It's so great.
I mean,
don't
it's
like
all
that one?
right. I don't know.
There's plenty of
The
holiday spirit in
Grinch.
that.
The Grinch. How dare I forget?
Which one? Like the cartoon or Jim
Yeah,
Carrey?
yeah. No, the Jim Carrey. The Jim Carrey.
Oh, the cartoon is great too, though.
Yeah.
And so is the original Frosty and the original Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer.
Like the
I just like a
claymation thing
Rudolph
that they did,
take.
like the animated thing.
Yeah, the like claymation dudes. Silver and gold, silver
you.
and gold. Yeah, see? The island of misfit toys, which I have used as a descriptor for the Sacramento Kings multiple times. This has definitely been the case. Okay.
It's a good business of basketball. I don't know what, but it was very off topic, but I like it.
I scrolled
Yeah.
through a list of 100 Christmas movies, and I think I've seen 4.
Give us the top 10.
Let's hear it.
Me and
Okay,
Sean will
okay.
say how many we've seen. We got hands up, Sean.
100 best Christmas movies all time based of Rotten Tomatoes. Meet Me in St. Louis, made in 1944.
Nope.
Judy Garland, right? My grandmother loves that movie, so I've seen it.
Sure, it is, yes.
Yeah.
The Shop Around the Corner, 1940. Jeez,
Nope.
we're old on these ones. The Holdovers, 2023.
Yeah. Oh, I just saw it. It's the best movie I've seen all year.
Good
Love
one.
that movie.
Okay.
Paul
That's a
Giamatti.
Christmas movie?
Yeah, well, it takes place during Christmas. It's a Christmas break and at like an all boys school, and these all rich kids in the 70s, I believe it was, maybe early
Okay.
60s in the Boston area. They have to go home for the holidays, and the ones that don't get to go home for the holidays have to remain on campus. And yeah,
Where can I watch
fantastic
that,
movie.
Sean? Where can I watch
in the
this?
theater, like a real
Damn it.
moviegoer. No, I'm kidding. I think I think you can get it on Amazon. I'm not sure. I think
Okay.
if you can rent it now, but I saw it in the theater. It's fantastic. Great performance by
Okay, keep going.
Giamatti, Alexander Payne movie. Go ahead.
Number 4, Tangerine, 2015.
Don't know that.
No clue.
This list is horribly disappointing,
This
Brennan.
is this is a
the
weird
top
list.
10.
Apparently,
stop at 100.
apparently, here, hold on. I had a different one that had a best 10.
Oh
and
God, never
this one
started
might be
over.
better. It's A Wonderful Life, 1946. Number 2 is Die Hard. Bullshit. Whatever.
See, told you.
Number 3, Gremlins.
Oh, Gremlins
I've
is
seen it.
incredible.
Oh,
What? It's
Number-
it's a Christmas movie for sure.
No, it
because
is, but
Phoebe Cates desperately hates Christmas because her dad got stuck in the chimney and was found a week later or something. Go ahead.
Number 4, Elf.
it's not good.
Number 5, Bad Santa.
Oh, fantastic.
Number 6, Home Alone. Number 7, A Christmas Story. Number 8, Edward Scissorhands.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
Why is this?
Yeah,
What's
look at-
going on there,
Where
James?
you got balloons over there?
I don't know
Where
why
did
we got
those balloons
balloons.
just come from?
That
Okay,
was random.
How is
come I don't
Edward
get
his
that?
Scissorhands a?
It's
Is it
based
like
during
Die Hard?
Christmas time.
Yeah,
And that
okay.
movie's
Yeah.
not great, by the way. But
I
anyway,
did
go
not
ahead.
know that was Johnny Depp until right now.
Oh wow.
Number 9, The Snowman, 1982.
Yeah, but
Animated.
Maybe I haven't
Frosty the
seen that.
Snowman or just the Snowman?
Raymond Briggs' book came to life once a year throughout many childhoods as the animated film was shown on British TV with religious precision.
Oh, there's no chance I saw that if it was
Yeah.
British.
Probably
The
not.
number 10, Kiss Kiss Bang Bang.
Oh,
Oh, yeah.
yeah. Robert Downey Jr., Val Kilmer, great movie.
See, Brendan?
I got one.
Lethal Weapon is
horrible.
also in during Christmas time. I'll add
Which
Yeah,
one?
like
the first
the
one.
setting
Very
can be
first one.
Christmas, does not make it a Christmas movie.
That's true.
Whatever.
Hey, let
I'm
me
over
ask
it.
you something. If it's a baseball movie and you have baseball in it and it's centered around baseball, like would you call For Love of the Game a baseball movie?
I have
You've
no
never
clue what you're
seen
talking
it.
about. Yeah, no. I've seen Mr.
Oh, man.
3000. That's obviously a baseball movie.
Oh my goodness.
Jesus.
That's ridiculous.
This went off the rails.
All right. We got to wrap this thing up. Brendan has somewhere to go. I've got somewhere to go. Sean has somewhere to go. Number one, we appreciate all of you. It's been a really fun year. We'll have a show next week for sure, but we're going to take a couple of days off here for the holidays and celebrate with our families, like we hope everyone out there is doing. Let me see what else. Number two, the Kings play Friday, Saturday, back to back at home. Should be an entertaining, again, measuring stick games. Can the Kings figure out their issues with playing on the second night of back to back? Can they, take a 2-0 lead on the Suns in the season series? Like, there's a lot of question marks going on there. But I don't know. Do you guys have any final thoughts? Let's hit Brendan first. What do you got?
Well, there's a huge basketball game going on tonight, I gotta say. The
Did you hear
Detroit
how
Pistons.
vigorously did you see how vigorously he brought up whatever what his keyboard? That was special.
Sometimes my typing sounds a little loud, I guess.
Yes.
The
You and
yeah,
Jason Anderson both.
yes. The 2-25 Detroit Pistons, who have lost 24 games in a row, are going against the 10-18 Utah Jazz today, who will be without Jordan Clarkson, Keontae George, Talen Horton-Tucker, Lauri Markkanen, and a couple of guys at the end of the bench as well. So, are they going to get closer to the record? That's all I got.
Is it 23 straight?
They are currently at 24.
Oh my God. What's the record?
I think it's 26.
Oh dear Lord.
I
It was
think.
at the Philadelphia 76ers and
Oh, it's got to be the process Sixers, huh?
well, no, the earlier, well, like the 13 win Sixers.
Okay.
I don't know, 12 win, 13 win. Okay, Sean, what do you got?
I'm gonna say that the Utah Jazz win.
I think the same.
I'm going with Detroit just to be a contrarian.
There you go.
Sean, what do you got?
There
for
are
final
more
thoughts?
Marvin Bagleys in the world than there are Detroit Piston wins this season.
That's such a great tweet. I don't know
So
whose tweet
funny.
that was.
I saw it on Reddit. It's so funny.
Yeah.
That was great. Well, my final thoughts. Hope you all enjoy Christmas or however you celebrate holidays or days off, whether you celebrate Christmas or not. Hopefully, everybody has a tremendous week. Really appreciate the support. I can't tell you. I mean, I go out a lot more than the two of you fellas do, and I got to tell you, it comes up almost all the time, and it's really the podcast more so than things that I do even at Fox 40 or even at Channel 10 when I was there. So lately it's been the podcast. People recognize this. I love hearing from people when you're out in there, and whether they come up and they're asking me randomly things about the Kings or whatever else, letting us know that they listen to us knuckleheads and what we have to say about the team is always a lot of fun. So that's great. Appreciate all the support. And how about a big 49er game coming up on Monday? That's going to be Niners and Ravens. Be down at that. That's going to be a busy one. So next week should be fun. I think I think people will be feeling pretty good about the Kings after this weekend, though.
Sean's making some predictions.
Yeah.
Okay, I know Brendan's got to run really quick, so I'll get to my quick thoughts very quickly. Number one, rolling with Mahomes is in the fantasy football like semifinals. Like we got one more win. We're in the Super Bowl for the fourth time in 6 years. So pulling for us, yes. Outside of that, spend some time with your loved ones. Like I love Christmas. It's a huge holiday here in our household. We go all out. Love spending time with the family. So take a deep breath. Don't stress out about the Kings. Enjoy Enjoy your family. Enjoy the 49ers game because that's going to be like a just knockdown, bare knuckle like battle. So that should be fun. And outside of that, again, thanks everyone out there who supports us here at the Kings Beat. We love doing what we do, and we love creating content for you guys. Whether it's Sean at Fox 40, Brenden at all of the places that he does work, or me at here at the Kings Beat and at ESPN 1320. So for Fox 40, Sean Cunningham and Brenden Nunes from the Kings Pulse podcast. I am James Ham, your Kings Insider for the Kings Beat and ESPN 1320. Make sure to give us a thumbs up. Jump on board with the Kings Beat. Have a great Christmas, and we'll see you very soon.